Modal verbs, expressing obligation and duty. Hello everyone. Welcome back to our English language learning series. Today, we are going to focus on an important aspect of English grammar: modal verbs for obligation. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to use these verbs to express obligation, duty, or necessity in different contexts. Let's dive in. First things first, what are modal verbs for obligation? These are verbs that we use to express a necessity or requirement, something that is obliged to happen. The primary modal verbs for obligation in English are must, have to, and should. Must is used to express a strong obligation or necessity. Have to also expresses obligation, but it's often used when the obligation comes from outside, such as a law or rule. Should indicates that something is recommended or advisable, but not strictly necessary. Here are some examples. I must finish my homework tonight. Personal obligation. We have to wear seat belts while driving. Law or rule. You should eat vegetables for good health. Recommendation. When we use must, we are indicating a strong obligation or necessity. This often comes from the speaker's opinion or perspective. For example, I must call my mother. It's her birthday today. It's important to note that must does not have a past form. To express past obligation, we need to use had to. For example, I had to attend a meeting yesterday. Moving on to have to. This modal verb is commonly used when the obligation comes from an external rule or regulation. For instance, we have to abide by the traffic rules. Unlike must, have to has a past form, which is had to. For example, I had to wake up early for work today. Finally, we use should when we want to give advice or make recommendations. It's a softer form of obligation. Here's an example. You should exercise regularly for better health. To wrap up, we use modal verbs for obligation, namely must, have to, and should to express different levels of obligation, necessity, and advisability. Understanding how and when to use these modal verbs is crucial for communicating effectively in English. Thanks for joining us today. I hope this lesson on modal verbs for obligation has been helpful. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next lesson.